everyone. This is Lori Stansel here, international speaker, best-selling author, and life strategist. There are different types of mountains. There are internal mountains and there are external mountains. Now, internal mountains are the mountains that we can't move out the way. So you ever heard someone say, you know, I moved from my old state, I relocated to another state, and I got down here and I'm dealing with the same problems that I was dealing with when I was in my other state. What's up with that? Well, the problem is you can change locations, but you can't leave yourself behind. Those internal mountains are mountains that have to be conquered. You have to conquer them internally, because if you don't, they will conquer you. Now, the first one I kind of talked about already, so I'm not going to go into great detail. The first mountain, internal mountain, is fear. I have a video called Face Your Fears. That is a video that I talk exclusively about fear. But one thing I did not cover in that video that I'd like to talk about today. So, in conquering that internal mountain of fear, we have to address the what if, the big what if questions. What if this happens? What if that happens? What if I lose my job? What if this person leaves me? What if this person moves away? What ifs, right? Those what ifs can paralyze us and intimidate us and keep us locked in fear. And what happens is when we allow the what ifs to become magnified in our minds, we miss opportunities. And not only do we miss them, but we don't even see them. And the ones that we do see, we miss because we are focused on the what ifs. And another thing that the what ifs causes us to do is it causes us to settle for less. Now, the bad thing about settling is you're going against who you are when you settle. And eventually you will not be satisfied and you will be miserable. I could settle for a job because I just need a job, right? But if I have a plan to move me past that job to the next step, if I get stuck in that one decision and I stay satisfied and settling for what was less, eventually I'm going to be discontented. And the best way to deal with what ifs is to answer the question. What if is a question, right? So what you do is you start with your what if, your initial question. You answer it. It leads to another question. You answer that question. It leads to another question. You answer that question. And you keep doing that until your peace is restored. So what you're doing is you are unearthing the root of where that anxiety is coming from. And you're settling that anxiety so that your peace is restored. Another internal mountain that you need to overcome, and I need to overcome, we all wrestle with it, is self-doubt. One of the ways that you can overcome that is to build up your confidence. Confidence is key in overcoming self-doubt. To develop mastery. Mastery is really important for boosting self-confidence. Finding your niche, finding that thing that you're really good at and becoming better at it. We all have natural talents, but we need to develop our talents by gaining skills. So, for example, I've always been one that likes to talk. So that was a gift, right? A talent. But then as I became older and I realized that God had called me to be a minister, to be a speaker, to be a teacher, to be an inspirational person, to be one who inspires, I then had to take it upon myself not to get complacent in a talent. I had to learn skills. I had to learn how to speak. So I like to talk, but I had to learn how to speak. I had to develop communication skills. But the way you overcome self-doubt is to develop mastery. Another way to build your confidence is by observing others. So when I was growing up, I would be with my dad and he'd be in different situations, that required problem solving or whatever. He could be on the phone talking to someone or making a business call or talking to an individual, and I could be with him, and he would say, watch me. Watch how I handle this. Listen to how I speak to this person. And so that's what I did. I learned a lot of my ways of dealing with people in business. My very first business teacher was my dad. He taught me by telling me to watch him. The foundation was laid by watching him. Another way to develop confidence, to overcome self-doubt, is to get a coach. Say you're trying to work out and you're not getting the results that you had hoped, or you're plateaued and you're not getting any results at all. You were doing good and then you kind of are falling back. And you're like, okay, I need more. I need something else to get me out of this stink. You hire a coach. Is the coach going to do the push-ups for you? No. But what the coach will do is teach, instruct, guide, and push you out of your comfort zone into a place where you can break through and break out and get the results you need. So sometimes overcoming self-doubt, you're building your confidence. Sometimes you need someone else, another voice, another perspective to hold you accountable to your actions and help you to push past those limited thinking. You know, sometimes we don't even realize we're thinking in a limited way until we verbalize those thoughts to someone else, and they say, you realize that is kind of negative, or you realize that you're operating in fear, and then the light is shown on that, and you're able to make the adjustments and make the corrections. Let's talk about those mountains, those external mountains. Those are the mountains we all know about, right? Those are mountains that are trying to block and stop you externally. First external obstacle or mountain is an obstacle. How do you deal with obstacles? How do you react when you come against something that has stopping you? You're making good strides, you've got good momentum, you're getting things done, and boom, you hit an obstacle. How do you respond? Well, problems are solutions, begging for solutions. So you have to develop your problem-solving abilities. And that involves learning how to approach an obstacle from all sides, from different points of view. We are not one-dimensional, so the problems that we deal with in life are not one-dimensional. And so there's more than one way to solve a problem. But your perspective is your perspective, and so you may only see one side of it. So it takes being able to step out of yourself and looking at the problem with a 360 viewpoint or vantage point. You want to understand how it works, the mechanics behind the obstacle. And most importantly, don't panic. When you panic, things just get exasperated and they become worse. You make it worse through your panic. Because when you panic, you're making a decision that doesn't have foresight. You're making a decision because you want to eliminate the problem, and the way you're eliminating the problem could cause more problems down the road. The next external mountain, this is a big one, and this is something that I think we've all dealt with and probably will continue to deal with, and that's the mountain of manipulation. Manipulation is all about compliance against your will, control against your will, and it's extremely calculated, because what the person is doing is they're preying on your weaknesses or your sympathies to get you to do something that's for their best interest and not necessarily for yours. So it is very deceptive and cunning in a negative sense. So the obstacle, the mountain of manipulation, is external. It preys on your internal issues, but it is external. So I'm going to talk about how to break free from manipulation and how to safeguard from manipulation. So a lot of times manipulation comes from an individual or individuals that know you very well. And so they kind of have the inside track on who you are and how you think. And so they're able to use that in their favor or against you. So one of the ways you want to break free or safeguard against it is to look at the nonverbal cues. That our speech, what we're saying out of our mouth, the sound that we're making, is not the entirety of communication. We communicate with our eyes, our expressions, our hands, our arms. We communicate in many different ways. Our posture, how we sit. So learn how to, when a person is talking to you and you feel like there's some manipulation going on and you're not quite sure, listen to what they're saying and look at their nonverbal cues and see if those two things match to identify what they really want behind what they're saying. Going into a situation, knowing what you want, knowing what you don't want, what you need, and knowing what you won't do. So knowing your limits will help you when you're in a situation where a person is trying to manipulate you. Check their action when you say no, or you're not sure, or you need to think about it. That's very, very telling. If they automatically go into this whole mode of, what do you mean you don't know? I'm telling you, this is what you should do. This is what you need to do. Okay, wait a minute. I just told you I don't know. So why isn't that enough? Or if they go into this whole phrase of, you know what, you never helped me. Never mind, forget it. I knew this was going to happen. I thought this one time I would come to you and I would reach out to you and you would help me. But of course, once again, you let me down. That's guilt. Again, manipulation. So you pay attention to that because that is a big clue. That's a huge red flag. Now, if someone's coming to you asking you for something and you say no, and they're like, okay, thanks. Now, inside they might be disappointed because it's okay to be disappointed. It's okay to be hurt. Those are natural emotions. It's how we process them. It's how we act when we feel those emotions. That's the problem. So if a person says, I'm sorry, you know what, it's just not for me. And then that person, you say that and the person responds and says, okay, fine. Then okay, I can continue working with this person. Safeguarding against manipulation is really, really important. You want to first look for nonverbal cues. Look for what they're saying behind their words, right? Then you want to know, before you go into a situation, what you want, what you need, what you won't do. So set your boundaries. Set your, know in your mind, there are certain things I'm just not going to do. I'm sorry, I love you, but I'm not going to do that. And you can say no and still love a person. Please watch my Empower and Able video. I go into that in great detail about loving a person and how enabling a person does not show love. It's not helping. And so people who manipulate will try to get you on that. And that, again, is manipulation. You can love a person and still say no. And if they don't understand that, that's their burden to carry, not yours. Please hear me. That is their burden to carry, not yours. The minute you take on their burden, you have now opened yourself up to manipulation, control, and misuse, and abuse, and even mind control. Mind control is a whole other topic that maybe I'll talk about one day, but that really goes into, people who are in cults. They're under mind control, but it starts with the manipulation at first. People sprinkle a little bit of truth with the lie, a little bit of arsenic with the cornmeal, right, to kill the rat. The cornmeal is good for you, but the arsenic isn't. So it's a little bit of truth mixed in with a lie to lure you in, because you connect to the truth, and because you connect to the truth, you disregard that lie. That's the beginnings of that.